You know that feeling, right? It's maybe 7:00 p.m.
Or later.
Or if you're unlucky, yeah, it's 9:00 p.m. on a Tuesday, and you've just walked through your front door after an incredibly long day. Maybe you were at the office or, I don't know, a networking event, maybe just a family thing. You drop your keys.
Yeah.
You lock the door. And then, almost instinctively, you do the thing.
The release.
The release, exactly.
Yeah.
You kick off those shoes that have been, like, quietly pinching your fourth toe since breakfast.
Yeah.
You reach back and unzip the dress that has been sitting just a little too tight on your ribs for 12 hours, and you let out that massive, guttural sigh of relief.
It's arguably the best feeling in the world.
It really is. It's that precise moment where your body finally gets permission to just...
To expand back into its natural shape, yes.
Pure bliss.
Yes.
But here is the thing that hit me while prepping for today's deep dive. If you stop and think about that moment for more than 2 seconds, it gets weirdly dark.
It does.
Because you have to ask yourself, why on earth did I put that stuff on in the first place? Why did I voluntarily spend my entire day in a state of, low-grade physical suffering?
That is the deeper question. And honestly, the answer is a lot more complicated than just, I wanted to look cute or it's the style.
Right.
Today, we're not just talking about fashion trends. We are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating and frankly somewhat heavy article by Emilia Nadratovska-Juba.
The title alone stopped me in my tracks. Self-violence. That looks good. It's from her publication, Emilia's Psychology of Fashion.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this isn't your typical fashion blog post.
Not at all. What she does here is really bridge the gap between psychology, sociology, and, well, your closet. She argues that the pain we feel, that relief we crave at the end of the day, isn't an accident. It's a symptom of something she calls symbolic violence.
And that's a heavy term. Violence. I mean, we usually reserve that word for crimes or wars.
We do.
Using it for fashion feels aggressive.
It does, but as we unpack this, you'll see why she uses it. This is a psychological exploration of how women are taught, basically from birth, to shrink themselves, control their bodies, and essentially participate in their own restraint.
And she brings in some big names to back this up.
Oh yeah, some heavy hitters, philosophers and sociologists like Iris Marion Young, Sandra Lee Burtke, and Pierre Bourdieu.
So buckle up. We're going to find out why that relief you feel at the end of the day is actually evidence of a much larger system at work.
Let's dive in.
I want to start with the physical aspect because that's what we all feel first. The article opens with this really powerful analysis of taking up space, or rather not taking up space. It references the work of Iris Marion Young.
Right. Iris Marion Young is essential here. She wrote extensively about the phenomenology of the female body.
Okay, phenomenology, that's a $5 word. Break that down for us quickly.
Essentially, it's the study of experience. So not just what is a body biologically, but what does it feel like to live inside this specific type of body?
How you experience the world through it.
Exactly. And Young makes this observation about women in public spaces that is so accurate, it's almost painful. She describes women waiting for a train.
I have this visual in my head immediately. I'm picturing a subway platform during rush hour.
Picture it. Young observed that women tend to stand or sit with their hands close to their bodies, palms resting calmly on the lap.
Knees together.
Knees pressed together, toes pointed inward or straight ahead. The entire posture is designed to make the person small, narrow, and harmless.
It's the anti-manspreading.
Precisely. If you look at how men are socialized to sit, especially on public transit, they sprawl, they extend their limbs, they claim territory.
Like I'm here and I take up space.
That's the body language, yeah. Young argues that women learn very early on that they should not sprawl. They shouldn't draw attention. The body appears tense because it is constantly holding itself in.
And it's wild because it's not biological, is it? I mean, I look at toddlers. They run around, they sprawl, they're messy. They don't naturally sit with their knees glued together. This is clearly learned behavior.
It is entirely learned. The source points out that, upbringing, religion, culture, they all conspire to teach women to control the body.
Oh, yeah.
Think about the commands you hear as a kid. It's rarely, go climb that tree, or yell louder. It's sit up straight, close your legs.
Don't eat too much, don't raise your voice.
Act like a lady!
Which usually means be quiet and don't take up too much room.
Exactly. And the result, according to the author, is that the body ceases to be just me. It stops being this vessel you live in. Instead, it becomes a project to manage.
A project to manage.
Or a form to correct.
That's such a depressing shift in perspective. It means you're never just existing. If I'm at a dinner party, I'm not just listening, I'm monitoring my knees, checking my posture,
Wondering if your stomach looks flat.
making sure I'm not laughing too loudly. I'm managing my presence in the moment rather than just living it.
And that constant management requires tools, which brings us to the clothes themselves, because you can't separate the posture from the garments that enforce it.
This was the section on the modern corset, referencing Sandra Lee Barkey. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
When I hear corset, I think Bridgerton. I think whalebone, fainting couches. We don't do that anymore. We live in the era of athleisure. Aren't we free?
That is exactly the assumption Bartkey challenges, she would say. Not so fast. She argues that while we may have ditched the literal 19th century laced corset, the function of the corset remains.
So it's a phantom corset.
In a way, the author explains that contemporary women still subject themselves to a corset-like form of dress. The goal is still to restrict movement, limit breath, and shape the body to a specific norm.
Okay, but if I'm wearing leggings, I'm not restricted, so where does this apply?
Well, think about the professional wardrobe or the going-out wardrobe. The source specifically lists things like tight pencil skirts or dresses that require you to keep your stomach constantly clenched.
Oh, the permanent suck-in. I know it well.
Yeah.
You can't fully exhale for 4 hours.
Exactly. That is a restriction of breath. If you aren't breathing deeply, you are literally in a state of physiological stress. Or take high heels. Think about the biomechanics. A high heel removes your stability. It alters the rhythm of your walking. You literally cannot run.
It makes you vulnerable. I never thought about it that way, but if I'm in stilettos, I am useless in an emergency.
It makes you vulnerable and it makes you tentative. And then, of course, there's shapewear.
Which has practically become a religion in the last decade. And the marketing is all about smoothing and confidence. It's sold to us as a helper.
But look at the mechanism. Shapewear is the ultimate example of the modern corset. It removes excess, meaning your actual flesh, but it also removes freedom. The author puts it really powerfully. The clothes a woman wears impose restraint, not just in appearance, but in gesture.
So you can't move freely. You're physically checked.
You're contained. It's like if you're wearing a tight skirt and stilettos, you physically cannot take up space, even if you wanted to.
You can't stride across the room.
You can't. The clothes enforce the smallness we were just talking about with Iris Marion Young. It's a feedback loop. You're taught to be small, you buy clothes that make you small, which reinforces the behavior of being small.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me, because nobody is standing there with a whip forcing me to wear this stuff. I go to the store, I swipe my own credit card, I put it on, I look in the mirror and say, ooh, I look good.
You feel powerful.
Yeah.
And that right there, that feeling of I chose this and I like this, is the crux of the whole argument. That is what leads us to Pierre Bourdieu and this concept of symbolic violence.
This is the term from the title. And it just sounds intense. How could it be violence if I'm choosing it?
Well, that's the brilliance of Bourdieu's theory. Symbolic violence isn't physical force. It's not someone punching you. It is a power that operates through consent. He calls it a gentle, invisible violence, unrecognized as such, chosen as much as undergone.
So it's violence that we agree to. That feels counterintuitive.
It's violence that we internalize. The author explains that women discipline themselves so that society doesn't have to. You don't need a policeman on the corner telling you to wear makeup or heels. You do it yourself.
You become the enforcer.
Yes. Because of what the text calls a split self, a woman divides herself into two people, the one who dresses and the one who judges.
Oh, I have that judge in my head. She is mean. She stands there while I'm getting dressed and whispers, is this too bold? Do I look professional enough?
Or are my arms too jiggly for this? Does this look cheap?
Yes, all of that.
That's the mechanism at work. You have adopted the social gaze and you've turned it on yourself. So when you say, I decided I don't like my bare shoulders, the author is challenging that. She asks, did you really decide that? Or did you make a choice within a system that taught you those things were inadequate?
That is uncomfortable to sit with. Because we frame all of this as self-care now, don't we? I'm getting a wax for me. I'm dieting for my health.
I'm dressing up to feel empowered.
Right. We use the language of feminism to justify the restriction.
And the article calls that the insidious nature of this violence, bodily discipline, dieting, hair removal, is rebranded as empowerment. Culture doesn't say hate yourself, it says be better.
You deserve to look good.
Take care of yourself. But it conceals coercion. It makes you feel like you are exercising freedom when really you are just striving to meet an external standard that was never designed for your comfort.
That's just maintenance of the project.
Exactly. And this maintenance can escalate. We move from symbolic violence, this invisible pressure, to what the author calls actual self-violence.
Yeah, this is where the article gets a bit graphic about the physical toll. The list of examples she gave made me wince.
Nadratakska argues that it's a short step from that psychological pressure to actual physical abuse of the body. She describes it as abusing the body to become appropriate.
She mentioned shapewear digging into the skin so deep it leaves red marks and bruises.
Bras that restrict breathing to the point of dizziness. Jeans that cut into the waist and disrupt digestion.
Shoes that deform the feet bunions, hammer toes, damaged spines.
And yet we normalize it. We call it fashion. But the author asks us to look at it objectively. If you saw a tool that deformed the bone structure of a foot, you'd call it a torture device. But if it's a stiletto, we call it a shoe.
It reminds me of foot binding, but just a milder, modern version.
It's on the same spectrum. It's modifying the body to fit an aesthetic ideal. There's a quote in there from Susan Bordeaux about the docile body that really struck me.
Yeah, Bordeaux is a legend in this field. She talks about the elusive ideal of femininity.
And the key thing is that it is a pursuit without a finish line.
Right, because the fashion changes. The body type changes. One year it's heroin chic, extremely thin. Next year it's the BBL look, big curves, tiny waist. You can never actually win.
Exactly. Bordeaux says this requires women to constantly attend to minute and often whimsical changes. And this constant attention makes the body docile.
Docile. That means what? Submissive? Easily managed.
It means a body that is malleable, a body whose forces are habituated to external regulation. A docile body is one that is always being fixed, always being improved, always being corrected. It is never just existing.
It is raw material for society to shape.
That's the tragedy of it. The body is never enough as it is, and that constant striving is exhausting.
It's incredibly exhausting. And that exhaustion leads some women to a different strategy. So far we've talked about the women who choose the pain to fit the ideal.
The active participants.
Right. But the author also discusses the women who opt out, the strategy of invisibility.
This part was really interesting because it brought in the class element with Beverly Skegg's research. It's not just about vanity, it's about safety. Yes, Skeggs focused on working-class women, and she found that for many, the body is seen as public property, subject to constant moral judgment.
This is the fear of being seen as too much.
Right.
Provocative.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Exactly. There is a very thin line. If a working-class woman wears something expressive, bright, or revealing, she risks being labeled. There is a real social punishment for standing out in the wrong way.
So the safe bet is to disappear.
Invisibility as safety. You choose neutral colors, jeans, baggy sweaters, no makeup. You aim for general modesty.
But the author makes a point that this isn't just a style preference. It's a safeguard, a defense mechanism.
It is. The text presents this paradox. Culture tells women, be visible, stand out. But the subtext is, but not too much, and only in the right way. Otherwise, stay in your place.
So women hide in neutrality.
But there's a cost to that, too. It's not physically painful like high heels, but it's psychologically painful. The author calls it self-nullification.
You're cutting yourself off from your true desires. Maybe you love bright colors. Maybe you want to wear velvet and sequins. But you don't, because you're afraid of the judgment.
Silent consent to have no voice, shape, or color. That phrase from the article is haunting.
So it's like you have two choices. You can participate in the painful high-maintenance system of looking good, the act of self-violence, or you can erase yourself to be safe.
The passive self-violence, both are forms of violence. One hurts the body, the other hurts the spirit, but both stem from the same root, the idea that the female body is something that must be controlled.
So where does this leave us? We've gone from the way we sit on a train, to the internal judge in our heads, to this impossible choice between pain or invisibility. It feels like we are trapped.
Well, the author doesn't sugarcoat it. She concludes by acknowledging how deep this goes. You can't just positive thinking your way out of it.
She says you can take off uncomfortable clothes. You can step out of uncomfortable shoes.
But it is far more difficult to leave the system that has become part of the way women think. That is the real challenge. You can throw away the shapewear today, but can you throw away the internal voice that tells you need it?
That's the symbolic violence part. It's inside us.
Right. And recognizing it is the first step. Recognizing that when you feel ugly or wrong or too big, that isn't an objective truth. That is a learned response from a system that benefits from your insecurity.
It's almost like once you see the invisible violence, you can't unsee it. Next time I'm shopping, I'm going to have to ask myself, am I buying this because I like it or because I'm trying to discipline my body?
And that is the work. Constant questioning. Who is this for? Does this serve me or does it serve the image of me?
It's heavy stuff, but it's also kind of liberating. Because if it's learned, maybe, just maybe, it can be unlearned.
One can hope. But it requires resisting that urge to be a docile body. It requires taking up space, even when you've been taught to shrink.
So, here is the thought I want to leave everyone with today. It's a bit of a challenge. We started this deep dive talking about the relief of taking off the costume at the end of the day. But imagine a world where you didn't have to take it off because you never put it on.
That's a powerful image.
If you stopped viewing your body as a project to be fixed or a risk to be managed, if you took the internal judge offline for just one day, what would you actually want to wear?
And the follow-up to that, which is perhaps the harder question, would you feel safe wearing it?
That's the question. Huge thanks to Amelia Nadratowska-Chaba for this incredible deep dive. It's definitely one that sticks with you.
Absolutely. It changes the way you look at a mirror.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.